Hello, Pokemon XYZ fans, Draspee here. This was a difficult episode to unpack. This was really hard. I've been thinking about this episode, and it's a difficult one, mainly because it's not like how we've seen the anime before. The anime has been a steady mixture of a more shipping, character development, that kind of aspect. More shipping has dominated the kind of character development, and the action has been all focused around Ash. That is just how we've been used to this anime. But we've got a subplot going on, and that's been interfering with that for a little bit that we haven't really noticed, and every time it's come out we've kind of smoothed over, and it's like, oh, didn't really affect the characters, la di da da, don't care. And when it does, it's pretty minor. I mean, the most major thing that happened was probably when Puni-chan came with him, Squishy. When Squishy came in, that's probably the biggest interference so far we've seen from what I'd call the Z Flare arc. And otherwise, they've really not been affected at all. And the characters have been in relative bliss to the whole Team Flare thing. Well, as such, the viewer has been aware of, but to more of an extent than the main characters, but kind of been in relative bliss of the whole Team Flare thing. I mean, even if you watch the specials, you're still kind of to bliss what's going on. But now we're kind of hit like this with a sledgehammer, because bam, guess what? Team Flare has a plan. They've sprung it. They've taken over. They're wrecking Lumio City like no one's business. And surprise, surprise, Alain had no idea what was going on. So we got the whole specials and the little tiny blips from the subplot all of a sudden exploding in full force. Now, how do you do that effectively? Well, this is where Ash and his friends come in, or so to speak, don't come in at all. You see, have you noticed that this episode, we really did not care about Ash and friends? They play such minor roles in this episode, they might as well as be nobodies. If they weren't main characters and we saw them going around, we could literally replace their roles with random civilians, and it would have the same effect. Because let's admit it, Ash, the only reason he's slightly important is because Lysander recognizes him as a strong trainer, so he captures him. Now, why does he capture him? Not so much so he can't get in the way, because he knows if Ash does try to get in the way, Alain can stop him, or at least the host of Team Flare could, and probably with Zygrad's help they could easily stop him. But the reason that this is an issue is because they know Ash does not just have the power aspect, they know Alain respects Ash. Alain, I think, is kind of a little disconnected from the rest of people. Is kind of part of his problem, is he has this kind of disconnect, and he tends to form special bonds with certain people. His Charizard, for instance. Alain is not the type of, he's not everybody's friend sort of guy. He's not a sanguine. He's more of a phlegmatic, he's loyal to the people he knows. Phlegmatic melancholic, maybe. He's not super social, but the people he does go with, he sticks with like glue. And that's kind of Alain's character. He's hard and fast to the people he knows. And other people he kind of avoids, because it's not so much because he's a jerk like Paul, or he's kind of pompous. It's because that's just who he is. He has the people he knows, he sticks with them, he's loyal to them to some extent, and then beyond that, everyone else is, they're okay, but he's not gonna become best friends with you necessarily. So what do we make out of this whole thing? Well, Alain is supposed to be our focus in this episode. And by putting Ash into the position with the whole thing, that's not so we can focus on Ash and be like, oh, Ash is captured. And Ash is kind of being used as an object in a way. He's kind of the object of tension between Lysander and Alain. Alain's upset that they're wrecking the city, but his main issue is not that they're wrecking the city. I mean, he probably knew that was probably in the cards somewhere with the way that they were planning things. But his main issue is very obviously the whole fact that they captured Ash. He's upset about that. He's upset about everything else. I've already stated that. But that's his main issue. And that is why they have Ash that way. Ash isn't here to save the day. Ash is here to move the protagonist. And the protagonist in this story that's being told now, the Team Flare arc protagonist, is not Ash Ketchum. It is Elaine. Elaine will be the protagonist. And of course, the main love interest in this episode. Like, who's the person who cares for the protagonist? Who is the protagonist's, I don't know, admirer? Manon or Marion. She is his admirer. Like, Serena, we don't see Serena, like, oh, Ash is gonna do. She isn't, like, using her usual, like, this is very unusual of Serena. Serena, you'd usually be saying, Ash is gonna save the day, Ash is gonna do this, but Serena isn't doing that. It's not necessarily because she doesn't believe in him, and hey, maybe off screen she is still doing that. I think the point is they're not showing that, not because we're supposed to believe Serena doesn't all of a sudden not care about Ash, because she's not the focus anymore. Ash and Serena's relationship isn't the main relationship in focus. The main relationship in focus is Manon and, well, Marion, sorry, anime, whatever, watching Japanese gets some things into your head. So Marion and Elaine are the main characters that are supposed to be in focus. They are the ones that we are focusing on. And we're also focusing on Ash as the center of his tension with Lysander. All those aspects are what we're focusing on. Serena and Ash, Greninja, we don't care about that right now. That's all subplot as far as we're concerned. They're little pebbles under the giant welding mattress of whatever is supposed to be, the giant buttress that makes up this plot. The Team Flare plot is sprung out of the ground just like the roots. And the fact is, everything else that's been going on is kind of pushed to the side until we deal with this. So how should we deal with this episode? We should deal with this episode kind of like we do the specials. Except the thing is, instead of dealing it with how we've done with the specials where it's more distance, now we're seeing how it affects the whole Ash thing and how it casts it into perspective. And while the whole Ash thing has been going on, it's been relatively inconsequential to what's been going on in Kalos. So now we're getting to see a taste of the big picture, and this story is not about Ash right now. Right now the focus is Elaine. So put to rest the whole Moore shipping, the whole Ash Greninja. That is all secondary right now. The thing we should be focusing on when we talk about anime right now is Elaine, Manon, Marion, dang it. Elaine and Marion, that shipping, I'm interested in that shipping. I ship Elaine and Marion, just so you know. And we should be focusing on how Elaine feels about Team Flare and how that will come into possibly cause issues for Team Flare. And then, of course, we should see the issues between Z1 and Z2. So that is what we should see. Anyway, please subscribe, leave a like, and comment so we can talk about this next week when, number 2 comes out. So I will see you later. Draspee out.